Good morning. We're ready to begin our unemployment insurance weekly report briefing. My name is Nate McDonald with the Department of Workforce Services. Just a quick reminder for any media who have questions, you may go ahead and email or text me any questions that you would like addressed by our Unemployment Insurance Division Director. I'd like to introduce Kevin now, Kevin Burt. He is our Unemployment Insurance Division Director to provide the report. Thanks.
Thank you, Nate. As Nate mentioned, this is the unemployment insurance claims data for the week July 26th through August 1st. And there are some promising signs when it comes to the unemployment claims, but there are also some pretty significant changes that have already occurred that I'd like to revisit, as well as some upcoming changes that individuals who are on unemployment or employers will experience with the unemployment insurance benefit. So I do want to point out that a couple things with the data first. So for this week ending, we received 5,080 unemployment claims across all programs. Now that is a high number. Remember, in 2019, we averaged about 1,100 claims a week, so 5,000 is high. However, this week, we actually saw on the traditional unemployment benefit, we saw 3,137 claims. That is actually down 16%. So we saw a 16% reduction in new claims for the traditional benefit this last week as compared to the week before. And that is down for 5 consecutive weeks. We've seen a decrease in new claims for the traditional benefit. And actually, over the last 2 weeks, that is down 28% on new claims. So it is trending well as individuals are starting to find new work, perhaps be able to return to work, and economic activity starts to resume. And hopefully we continue to see that trend over the next few weeks as we kind of adjust to this new normal with this pandemic. The continued claims we saw for the traditional benefit, 72,000. Now that is down 8% over the last 2 weeks. Again, a positive trend, and it's also down 14 consecutive weeks. Now remember, a continued claim is different than a new claim. So unemployment is actually week to week to week. So a person has to apply first, and then every week they attest to what is their situation and to request that benefit. So a continued claim is a good indicator of how many people continue to need the benefit. So 72,000, again, is down 8% over the last 2 weeks, down for 14 consecutive weeks, but do keep in mind it is 711% higher than the average number of claims we took in 2019, which was about 8,800 continued claims a week. So it is trending in the right direction, but it is still certainly an indicator that individuals continue to have their employment impacted by this pandemic, and we're able to continue to meet that demand by paying the benefits for those that have lost that income. Last week, we paid out $20 million in state benefits with an additional $41 million in the $600 stimulus benefit. Now, keep in mind, last week was the last week that individuals on ongoing claims would be able to receive the $600 benefit. So the benefit that we're announcing today is payments made last week. That payment will not be made this week. We'll go into that a little bit more after we finish with the numbers. Pandemic unemployment assistance is a temporary, fully federally funded unemployment insurance program for those that are self-employed or gig workers. That new claims was 832 for the week. That is actually down 36% from the week before. And new claims are down for 5 weeks in a row. That is a promising sign as well. So universally across all programs, we're seeing double-digit decreases in new claims. In fact, over the last 2 weeks, we've seen about 1,000 less new claims across all programs for 2 consecutive weeks. So that is a promising sign as well. Now remember, pandemic unemployment assistance also was eligible for the $600 a week stimulus benefit. Last week we paid out $7.7 million in the $600 stimulus to those who were on pandemic. Remember, that was also the final week for those on the pandemic unemployment assistance. And finally, we have the extended unemployment benefit, which is a 13-week, fully federally funded benefit for those that exhaust the traditional state benefit. That number was 1,111 and went up nearly 10%. Now, that's expected. Remember, unemployment is time limited, so individuals that receive their max number of weeks will exhaust that benefit, traditionally going to becoming ineligible for unemployment. But with the CARES Act, they're introduced a 13-week extension, so individuals transition without application. They'll just file their continued claim and follow the instructions as they do that continued claim, and if they have exhausted their benefit, it'll transition to that pandemic. We do expect those claims to increase as individuals remain unemployed for an extended period of time. So to date, since March 15th, the beginning of the pandemic, when we saw an increase to unemployment insurance claims here in Utah, we have received 268,573 new applications. That is more than 4 years worth of work received in 20 weeks. We've also paid out $1.3 billion in unemployment benefits since March 15th. That is more benefits than we paid in the previous 7 years combined. So unemployment has certainly served a purpose. As this pandemic hit, individuals were asked to stay home, were furloughed overnight, businesses were asked to shut down, unemployment saw significant increases and began to meet that demand by paying out, again, $1.3 billion in unemployment benefits. Now, I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the changes that are coming with the unemployment insurance program because they are significant, especially to the claimants, and there are changes to the employers as well. We've talked about this over the last several weeks, but I do need to continue to re-emphasize this because it's, again, a significant change. Many individuals that were receiving unemployment benefits during this pandemic, perhaps this was their first time ever on unemployment assistance. And their experience with unemployment has been very different than normal experiences with unemployment insurance, and that's because of the CARES Act and the response to be able to support individuals and businesses during the initial phases of this pandemic. So I'll start with the $600. Remember, unemployment insurance has always been a replacement wage. It is for individuals who are laid off through no fault of their own. It is a tax paid for by Utah employers as they report wages of their employees. We determine a tax, they pay that tax, we deposit it into a trust fund. And then individuals who are laid off through no fault of their own are eligible for a small replacement wage of unemployment benefits paid out of that trust fund until they're able to re-engage into the workforce. In the state of Utah, that replacement wage is about 40 to 50% of the wages lost for an individual. Now, at the initial phases of the pandemic, the expectation was people to stay home. And also businesses were very hopeful to be able to bring those employees back. And so we introduced, or CARES Act, the federal government introduced a $600 a week stimulus benefit to state benefits. And so what that did is it in many instances became a full replacement wage. That began, but has since expired. The last week that individuals could qualify for the $600 stimulus was on July 25th. So any new applications after July 25th will not be eligible for the $600 a week stimulus. Now, as I mentioned, we did pay out $600 stimulus benefits last week. And this is for the week ending August 1st. But what that means is in unemployment, we pay after, the week after. So payments that are going out this week are based on the attestations of the weekly claims of what happened last week. And so when people filed their continued claims last week, it was for the week ending July 25th, which made them still eligible for one more payment of that $600 a week stimulus. So as of this week and moving forward, new claims and ongoing claims will no longer be eligible for the $600 a week stimulus. Now, that does not mean that unemployment expires for all individuals. Individuals can remain on unemployment insurance, but it will return to the previous state-only benefit of about a 40 to 50% replacement wage. That is also true for the self-employed and gig workers who are receiving the pandemic unemployment assistance. That is a temporary, federally funded program that will last up through the end of the year, but is also based on the state calculation of unemployment benefits, which is about a 40 to 50% replacement wage. Those on pandemic unemployment assistance also receive that $600 benefit until it expired on July 25th. So those new claims for pandemic unemployment assistance, ongoing claims for pandemic unemployment assistance, will also not be eligible for the $600 a week stimulus moving forward. There's nothing that any individual has done incorrectly. There is no mistake that has been made on the department. The program simply expired, and there is no longer funding for the $600 a week stimulus through the CARES Act as it sunset on July 25th. The second one that is a significant change, and I brought it up last week, but I want to continue to reemphasize it, is the ending of self-attested job attachments. So at the initial stages of the pandemic, this pandemic has been very different when it comes to unemployment insurance as a normal recession. One of the reasons why is that $600 a week stimulus benefit was certainly unprecedented. During the Great Recession, there was a stimulus additional benefit to unemployment, but it was $25 a week. So the CARES Act introduced a significantly larger. And why was that? It was because it was encouraging individuals at the initial phases of this pandemic to stay home and stay safe to try and curb the spread of the COVID-19. The other significant difference was that individuals were not permanently laid off in many instances in early March. Businesses were forced to close in many instances, or asked to close, and then their employees were unemployed overnight. But the hope was that the business would be able to reopen and bring all of those employees back. So rather than a permanent layoff, it was a furlough or a temporary job displacement with the hopes of bringing those employees back. And as a result, what we did over the last 20 weeks is we have taken self-attested job attachment statements, meaning as individuals apply for benefits, they've been able to say, hey, I do expect to return to my employer. This is a temporary furlough. And what that has done is that has it's made it so that individual that is expected to return to their job, it does not require them to job search to continue to receive the unemployment benefit as they're expected to return to their employer. It has been 20 weeks since the initial phases of this pandemic. I need to emphasize that we talk a lot about the dollar amount of the unemployment benefit of the 40 to 50% replacement wage, the stimulus benefit, $600 or whatever future stimulus is ever considered. Remember that unemployment is also time limited. Individuals can only receive up to 26 weeks of unemployment benefits. And as I mentioned, we are now on week 21 of this pandemic since early March. Individuals who have been unsuccessful to be able to return to their employer after 21 weeks are going to start coming up, are already more than 50%, even with that additional 13 weeks of federally funded benefits. They're well beyond 50% of exhausting their benefits, at which time it will turn to $0 in benefits. Unemployment is not an income-based program in that if you are below this income, you are eligible for the benefit. It is based on wages that you have earned. And your calculation of your benefit when you initially apply is based on those historical wages of how much you will receive and how many weeks you are eligible for. That is a claim against those wages. Once you claim those wages, they cannot be claimed again, meaning that's why there are only a certain amount of weeks that you can receive the unemployment benefit. So as a result, we have made the decision that self-attested job attachments will end on August 15th. What that means is individuals can continue to receive unemployment benefits. It's not that a person is ineligible for unemployment. It's just every week now when they do their self-attestation, they have to report on 4 job contacts they made the week prior to their weekly attestation. So when you do your weekly claim on Sunday, you're reporting 4 contacts you made the week before. Now, what if I still hope to return to my job? What if I am working at reduced wages? What if I am high risk and am unable to return to what I have been working in? Am I still going to require those job, or am I still going to be required to do the job contacts? And the answer is yes. Again, keep in mind, the unemployment benefit cannot cover an individual indefinitely. It is only available for up to 26 weeks, and then a 13-week federally funded extension that expires the end of December. Individuals that cannot return or have not returned after 21 weeks really need to start looking for other job opportunities, because it has been 5 months that an individual has not successfully returned to the job that they were temporarily laid off from. Many industries have been able to successfully adjust to this pandemic and been able to grow and expand and continue with that economic activity. In Utah, we have a 5.1% unemployment rate. On jobs.utah.gov alone, which is not the only place to apply jobs, we've seen an increase from 20,000 job postings to 28,000 job postings. It's not that there are not jobs out there. There are industries, though, however, that have not been able to adjust to this pandemic. But unemployment will not cover an individual until they are able to adjust. Individuals in those industries need to start looking for employment in other industries to find that stability in employment before their unemployment insurance expires. So keep in mind, that'll occur on August 15th. Every employer was notified, and every claimant has been notified. What you will be asked to do beginning August 15th is register for work at jobs.utah.gov. You will be asked to complete an online assessment, a set of questions to evaluate your job readiness. Based on how you answer those, you'll be asked to complete online workshops that'll help with job search, networking, resume writing, interviewing skills. Because if you have not looked for work in several years, it is very different looking for work now than it was several years ago. And so this will help with that job preparedness to be able to be more successful in your job search efforts. And then you have to do those 4 job search contacts. As long as you continue to do that, you can continue to receive the unemployment benefit. However, remember, it's time limited. So you have to start exploring opportunities that will get you the income and full-time wages and a safe environment according to your health, that unemployment will not be able to, again, continue through the length of this pandemic, as it is time limited. And then the last thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is also a change to the pandemic unemployment assistance. Remember, pandemic unemployment assistance is a temporary, fully federally funded program through the end of December for the self-employed and gig workers. That is a fully federally funded program, meaning the individual or the agency responsible for the rules of that program is actually a National Department of Labor program. So we have to be compliant with the requirements of their program as we as a state administer it. When you applied for pandemic unemployment assistance, or if you are going to apply for pandemic unemployment assistance, you will be asked a set of questions as required by the Department of Labor. It's about 8 to 9 that will ask you to attest what is the reason, the direct reason you are unemployed as a result of this pandemic. Pandemic is only available for your self-employed gig workers who are unemployed as a direct result of the pandemic. And those 9 criteria are the reasons. You have to attest this is the reason why. The Department of Labor has asked that we add those questions onto continued claims. For individuals, remember, unemployment is week to week. That's true for pandemic, so you have to file your weekly claim. And those same questions will be asked, because not only do you have to be unemployed initially as a direct result of this pandemic, you also have to continue to be unemployed as a direct result of this pandemic. Meaning if your industry has returned, or if the economic activity has returned, and it's just you've seen a reduction in income, it is likely that you may not be eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance because now you are no longer unemployed as a direct result of the pandemic unemployment assistance. Please make sure you answer those questions honestly. They were added in July. If attestations are false, there will be overpayments that have to be paid back for any unemployment received incorrectly. So please make sure as you read those questions that you answer them honestly, and it will determine your eligibility ongoing for pandemic unemployment assistance. And with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions. Will you speak a little bit about the job attachment? If someone is in a situation where they know their employer is bringing them back, haven't been able to reopen or bring them back, what needs to happen? Okay, great question. So the question was about if there is a job attachment and an employer knows, I'm going to bring them back, I'm just not ready to bring them back yet. Remember, it's not that job attachments have ended altogether. They're ended based on self-attestation. We have notified every employer in Utah that we are going to end the job attachments effective August 15th. Included in that notification was a form that an employer can complete to say, no, I want to continue my employees as job attached and not require them to job search as I would like to retain them. And then what we would do is we would apply that job attachment to the individuals based on the commitment of the employer and bringing those individuals back. So if you as a claimant are sure that you are going to come back, you need to talk to your employer to complete that form, because we will do it based on the attestation of the employer. Now, why are we doing it based on the attestation of the employer versus not doing it for the attestation of the claimant? With the ending of the job attachments, any benefits paid for unemployment benefits will now affect the tax rate of that employer. So the employer's tax rate is based on their former employees qualifying for unemployment benefits. So an employer historically has always been responsible if they do job attachments, that's absolutely something they can do. But all of their employees that receive unemployment benefits will affect their tax rate the following year. And so that's the reason why we have to require it of the employer, because the employer, by adding that job attachment, will see an increase in their tax rates in the future. Now, the positive thing is that change in tax for employers will not occur until calendar year 2022. So if you have talented employees that you would like to retain and you are confident as an employer that you will bring them back, we will certainly accept your job attachment request and apply that and not require the names of the individuals that you specify you are intending to bring back. The other option is to also just bring them back. If you want to prevent that tax rate from going back and you are able to bring them back, then bring them back so they no longer need to apply for unemployment assistance. Unemployment assistance, again, is taxing a trust fund that has been built up with taxes. We've paid out in state benefits over $400 million in unemployment benefits from that trust fund. What that will result in is next year tax increases for all employers across all industries. And so we need to start looking at ways to try and keep those tax rates lower. And one of the ways to do that is with the job attachments, encouraging people to return to work. And again, remember, for those that if you are hopeful to return, remember it's time limited. You can only receive so many weeks of unemployment benefits. The max number of weeks is 26 plus a 13-week extension. We are in week 21 since the start of this pandemic. Is Utah rushing the ending of job attachment? So the question is Utah rushing the end of the job attachment? And I would say the answer is no. And here's the reason why. Again, it's 26 weeks that an individual can receive unemployment benefits. We have held onto that job attachment for 21 weeks. So it is within a month that that person will exhaust all rights to a state unemployment benefit moving forward. Utah also has a 5.1% unemployment rate. We've seen economic activity increase across many industries. And again, keep in mind that job attachment ending does not make a person ineligible for unemployment benefits. An individual can absolutely continue to receive unemployment benefits. However, they will be asked to complete 4 job contacts. You have to start looking at other jobs because your unemployment benefits will exhaust, and then it turns to $0. So now is the time to start looking for jobs that have been able to survive and grow and increase in this pandemic, instead of continue to hope that industries that have suffered and have been unsuccessful in returning with this pandemic. The pandemic is still going. It's not a recognition that the pandemic has ended. It's actually a recognition that this pandemic is going to continue. If the pandemic was going to end tomorrow, ending job attachments doesn't make sense. It's recognition that this pandemic is ongoing for several months, but unemployment can't continue over those several months because it's time limited.
With this $600 benefit ending, are you already started to see other temporary programs?
And so the question is, with the $600 stimulus benefit ending last week, meaning the final payout last week, but ending on July 25th, have we seen other programs start to increase in requests and needs? Such as the SNAP or the food assistance program or the rental assistance program or medical assistance and other programs, other safety net programs. And I think what I would say is that we're probably too early to tell. Keep in mind that individuals last week received that $600 a week stimulus for the continued claims. It is true not for the new claims, but the grand majority of people that were paid last week were for continued claims, and they continue to get that $600 a week stimulus. And that is an important point to bring out, though. As that income drops from that losing that $600, remember, an individual can continue with the 40 to 50% replacement wage. If you continue to be unemployed, if you continue to see reduced hours, if you continue to be high risk, and it's going to take time to re-engage and reconnect back into the workforce with those job search efforts, one of the things you can do to help replace some of that lost wages with the $600 stimulus going away is apply for the SNAP benefit. And we looked at the data last week, and we saw about a 10% increase, but again, very early to tell that. The other thing to keep in mind is rental assistance. Rental assistance was a CARES Act fund or partially CARES Act funded to help individuals with rent assistance. Now, over the last 20 weeks, if you were receiving unemployment benefits, you were actually ineligible for rental assistance. And that's because individuals were receiving a full replacement wage with that $600 a week stimulus benefit on top of their state unemployment benefit. Because that $600 benefit has gone away, now rental assistance is no longer going to be ineligible for applicants based on the receipt of unemployment benefits. If you are having difficulty with food stamps or food and you need SNAP or food assistance benefits, go to jobs.utah.gov to apply. You can also apply for medical assistance. Also, if you're having difficulty with the rent, with the loss of that $600 a week stimulus or the exhaustion of the unemployment benefits, you can call 211 and start to look for and start to apply and see if you are eligible for the rent assistance. And with the unemployment assistance, the rent assistance, the SNAP benefits, the medical benefits, it's going to be that you'll have to use all safety net programs to sustain you. But in each instance, the most stability you'll find is in employment, as again, we're seeing opportunities grow, but it will be in a different industry perhaps than you have worked in before.
Final question, when's the next job?
Oh, and that's a good question. I did want to bring that up. It was asked about the virtual job fair. The Department of Workforce Services, specifically the Workforce Development Division, has done an excellent job adjusting to this pandemic in the new normal by still connecting these job seekers or people who are needing increased wages or more hours to employers that are hiring. We did, as a department, a virtual job fair at the end of July. There were over 80 employers offering jobs for over 2,000 positions, and we had 700 registrants. So that's 700 registrants for over 2,000 jobs. So that's again, there are opportunities. You just have to take advantage of them and explore industries perhaps you haven't worked in before. The next job fair is August 27th. It's from 10 to 1. It is free and it is virtual. So it's a virtual environment. As a job seeker, you are able to connect in the last one with over 80 employers for 2,000 jobs. So if you are an employer that is trying to hire and you're interested, contact jobs.ut or go to jobs.utah.gov to register for this job fair as an employer. And if you are a job seeker, same thing. Go to jobs.utah.gov to register for that free virtual job fair. In addition, the day before, August 26th, there is a free virtual job fair prep class. Connecting with employers in a virtual environment is different, and so I do encourage those who have not done it before to go to that class the day before to be prepared for what they will experience in the virtual job fair so they can focus on building that relationship and connecting with those employers and finding that employment. And with that, we'll go ahead and end this briefing. Thank you.